All right, so I want to go over, make sure your sound is off, unless you can't hear me all the way on the end there. Rachel, you on? You guys on? Everybody's on? Brian, you're on, right? Andrew, you want to see it up here? The link, just go to Google Classroom. The link is up there. All right, so I want to go over a project that I had to work on last night since the measurements were wrong on one of the projects I'd done. So you could see on the left, the image on the left is a picture of the actual truck and what was printed on it. I was given the dimensions of the outer portions of the truck, so I didn't really know what was inside there with the bars and what was being covered up. So as they looked at it, my brother, this was done for my brother. So as he was looking at it, he was like, "Oh, you can't read call, and you can't read the website." The printer did a drawing, and he sent me this drawing with all the correct numbers, so all like the correct measurements here. So then I created a file. The file is done to size per inches. And if I did it at 300 DPI, it would have been a huge file. So I just did it at 72 DPI, which you could get away with as long as it's a big file like this. You don't want to do a smaller file that's like a booklet or something and do that at 72 DPI. Joseph, is he on? So I redid it. I made sure I had all the right measurements, and I sent it over to the printer just to let him know that he can print it and make sure that everything looked right. And this is the change. You could see where the bars are. I left a little space there just so that it's not covering up the letters. You could see on the original, you can read it, but it's not clear. So I made sure that you could read everything on the graphic on the back. So just because of that, it was an error that caused all that extra work and time. All right, I want to go back to the project we just worked on. And I think I randomly picked a couple of these here. I want to go over what was done. So here I'm looking at, I think this one's Andrew's. So I go through when I'm checking these and I make sure that all the pen tool exercises are correct. And if they are not correct, and I see that while you guys are working on the project, I put a note to it. So usually what I do is come up here, highlight an area, and then I'll write a note here. So you guys always should be checking as we're working on it, because if I do put a note there, I want you to fix it and re-upload it. But for all of you guys that have checked your work and made sure that it was correct, just keep on doing that, because I expect you guys to do that. So once all of these look good and you continue on with your project, I'd like to see your full project in this. The only way that I can see you working on the design process is if you're uploading this. You're uploading your word clouds, your notes, your sketches. I need to see everything. I need to see all of your sketches, like what's done here. Like I can see that he's thinking about it. He's doing different thumbnail sketches. Thumbnail sketches are the size of your thumbnail. It's really simple, should be quick, easy sketches. And then you go into something like this, which could be more of a finished sketch or a rough. Okay, just make sure they're all PDFs. Like here's the PDF. So here's the finished file. He did it on black. And then more of the notes. So that's a second year student, I think. And here we have Brandon's. So when I go through these and I make sure that like these guys or you guys, make sure you have the sketches uploaded. So the one thing that I check out is, oh, these are done really nicely. Then I go to the ending, like your end project, like your class logo here. And for some people, I'm like, oh, well, why didn't they use the curves? This one looks pretty good with the curves. And it looks, the alignment could be a little bit better, but I think I could see right away. It's 3 inches by 3 inch square. It's set up nicely in the middle of the page. It's not like in a corner. It's not messy. So everything looks pretty good there. As long as you guys have everything that I asked for in the rubric and everything's turned in on time, then you should be receiving a good grade for this. Just make sure you're uploading and showing me that you're doing all of the design process by uploading your sketches, your ideas. The design process is major for me right now. I want to make sure that you guys are thinking every project through. All right, we'll go on to this next project. But first, I want to go over the project itself. So this project, we're going to design our personal logo, which could be your initials. It could be your name. It could be your initials and name. So just make sure you're following the specs up here. You're following the design process. So I'm going to have to see you guys work with. So the design process is pretty much following this here. So you have your word cloud, you have tons of thumbnail sketches, you have a little bit more rough sketches that go into a final sketch, which will turn into your final on Illustrator. So all of your files from the last two projects should have been done in Illustrator. It should be a 3 by 3 inch document. All logos should be scalable and as a vector. So just using Illustrator and recreating your file is already creating it into or as a vector. So you must use negative space creatively. So your guys are going to have to check out and see. And I know I mentioned it to a lot of you guys, that negative space and what it is. So if you look up logos using negative space, you could get a pretty good idea of what I'm looking for. So the logos that you create here should include your name, which is a word mark, or initials in some way. So just like I said, your name or initials. It should be simple yet thought out and easy to understand from a distance. All the logos for first year students should be one color, and logos for second year students should work as one color first and two colors. So I want you to jot down in your notes what colors you're using on either the rolling colors or the Pantone. So you guys know from last year. If not, then we could talk about that. Make sure you're not watching video on your screens. I allow you to listen to music, but video is a whole different story. So I don't want you guys to watch videos on your screens. I've noticed that many of you have been running out without shutting your computer down. I would shut your computer down if you don't know how to log out, just to be sure. So you can shut your computer down or you can log out, but make sure you log out. Because the person that comes in on the morning, they still have your login and it takes them a while to get into it. So make sure you log out before you leave. And just like everything else that I mentioned yesterday and the day before about phones, I don't want to see your phones out. Let me know if there's a reason, because usually there is no reason. So keep your phones away from your desk. I would keep it in the bin or keep it over. You could keep it on the side and charge it on the sides if you want, but don't keep your phones near you. I will be taking points off of your daily grade if your phone is out. So make sure, I think I gave enough warning for that. All right, when you're creating a logo, you want to keep it simple and stupid. And the thing about stupid is I don't really like the word, but they say it in college a lot. What's that? Yeah. Simply sophisticated or simply smart. That's what I would say. And thanks, Matt, thanks, Matt. The reason why I asked you for the design process is because I want to see your thinking. I want to make sure that you're thinking in a way that's smart. So that's how you show me that you're really thinking about stuff. So keep it simple and smart. All right? So principles of logo design. So some of these logos up here you recognize right away, right? Which are the ones that you believe do not pop out at all? I think it's pretty obvious. What's that? This one? Yeah, it looks like they just plopped in an ornament. You know, it's very thin. It's not very recognizable from a distance. Xander, since you're all the way over there, when you look at this on the screen, which one can you not read well at all? The one in the middle? Oh, especially what it says bad, you can't read that at all. They use three separate different fonts, and then it's just very busy at the bottom. It's just really hard to read. They use three different fonts, which is always a bad idea, especially if you want your logo to be versatile and long lasting. Because if you're designing a logo for yourself, you don't want to use a font that somebody else created, because somewhere down the line, if you become bigger and bigger, they could come after you and say, hey, that's my font. You need to pay me the rights for it. Yeah, copyrights. First year, I would much rather you create your own word mark for your name. All right, so we all agree that these logos stand out much better than the ones that we pointed out on the last slide. It's just easier to distinguish, and they're the corporate logos that stand out from a distance. You could see them probably for at least, across the room here, the logos that are up there. So what I want to talk about is the qualities that make a logo original and unforgettable. So the first quality is simplicity. A logo can be very simple, and you could see, like, all the way over here where Andrew, he has his, is that the start of your personal logo? Second one? Yeah, so if that wasn't an outline, I think it would be a little bit more bolder and simple. But simplicity is the number one element, I believe. Even though I'm saying simple, I don't mean simple in a way where, oh, it was done very easily, because usually a simple logo and a bold logo took a long time to get to. So make sure that your logo is simple in a way where it can be recognized at a glance. McDonald's M, you could recognize that in a glance because it's very simple. Even if you had the colors red and yellow, the first thing I think of is McDonald's. I could have two squares next to each other, red and yellow, and I recognize McDonald's because they have their branding so well. They know their branding. They gave it to everybody. Everybody knows their branding. I could go to a McDonald's here, and I could go to a McDonald's in Europe, and they have exactly the same colors out there, the red and the yellow. So that's creating a brand. You use it everywhere. People know them from their colors. People know them from the M. They could use a black logo. They could use a two-color logo, but you'd never want to use, what's that, Aaliyah? It's gray. Gray is a neutral color, so you could get along with gray. Gray is neutral, so sometimes gray. I mean, I went to Wawa, I think it was last week, and I see they color coded their sandwiches now. So when you walk in, they have like a blue for like a sausage, and they change the colors around. And I think it's smart in a way because you're color coding. You could run in. Usually they have a lot of people in there. You run in, grab one, and leave right away. So they probably thought about that for a while and was like, design-wise, we can make it so that people could just run in, grab the right sandwich without having to read it, and then just check out. So I think it's pretty smart. Just creating brands in that way, like how to make it better. So simplicity is the major reason for you guys to keep a clean, uncluttered logo and make sure it's recognizable. Proportion. So usually, even Andrew working over there, you need to make sure all of your letters are proportionate with each other. So a logo should function as a discrete unit with a width not much greater than its height. So usually you want to keep it where, I guess some of these word marks, the width are greater than the height, but I'm talking about more of the icons. If you're creating an icon or an initial mark, make sure that it's almost square in a way. And also, a logo should work well on anything from a business card to a billboard. And the reason why, to make it versatile like that, is that if a logo is this small, you should be able to read it. If it's on a business card and it's about a quarter inch, you should be able to read it. You don't want it to be too busy. That's part of the simplicity and proportion of it. A limited color palette, we just kind of went over that. I would not have a logo that has more than 3 colors. 80% of the world's most recognizable logos are 3 colors or less. It says 1 or 2 colors there, but I think it's mostly 3 colors or less. A few good designs use more than 3 colors. This is because using more than 3 colors usually turns into the logo into mud. So too many colors, just like that logo that they called a logo yesterday, that was like the construction one. Remember when you took the quiz? It was a landscaping logo. So that had many different colors. I think it had way too many words. You know, I gave everybody credit for that because it seemed like you guys understand that that was a bad logo. So basic color palettes is 1 to 3 colors. It should also convey a mood or emotion. And a lot of times, if you are using colors, like second years that are working on this, I would like to see that in your notes. Why did you select the colors that you did? These 3 logos up here, why is McDonald's better than the other 2? It's a lot simpler. Yeah, there's the one on the right, upper right. Yeah, there's like a lot of details in the trees. And how many colors does that use, Xander? Can you see it from here? The Mars awaits. So like, how many is that? Like 6? So 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's different values of that purple. So it's probably like more than 6. So that would definitely not work as a logo. I think that if that wasn't in a circle, I would say it's a picture. I would see that on a shirt. I'm not saying it's not a bad graphic. I'm just saying it doesn't work as a logo. And especially the one on the left, that doesn't work as a logo either because it's just, well, they're acting, it's more than 4 colors there. They're trying to make it look like an emblem because it's encased, but it's not really an emblem because it's just, yeah, it's an image. It's pretty much an image. It's a design, just a design that could be on a shirt. All right, so easy to read fonts. I really don't want you guys to use fonts, but for second or third year students, you could. I just don't like the idea of using fonts. And if you are using fonts, then just make sure it's easy to read. What's wrong with the one on the right? Because I think my first 2 years that I started teaching, I had some kids in my class that really thought that that was a logo. Brian. Yeah. What fire for hire? What does that mean? Yeah, maybe they're trying to hire firefighters. But they did it. A major thing about this one is it's a bitmap file that they did in Photoshop, and they did a whole bunch of different effects to it just to make it look cool, I guess. Oh yeah, you can see right away which one's Illustrator and which one's Photoshop. For everyone that hasn't used Photoshop yet, this is a good example of a stylized Photoshop file. Right. So the fire was made with a smudge brush. So they just smudged it up. They probably just used the yellow and red in the background and smudged each part of it. And they used, it looks like they used a bevel and probably a glow. So, I mean, that image right there is something that I don't want to see from anyone in here, not even when we use Photoshop. So when we use Photoshop, I like to see something more realistic. That doesn't even look good if you took a logo that was needed to be stylized, like the 8, and you brought it in and they asked you to stylize it for them. I wouldn't want to see that. Yeah, it looks like it would be something from a bar. So that being said, you need to make sure it's practical and adaptable. And for this, the idea of that last logo, that's a 4-color logo. It's a full color process logo. Why is it that you don't want to use a logo like that when it comes to logo design if you're doing a t-shirt with that logo on it? Yep. Autumn, did you hear my question? I said, why did you not want to use the logo on the slide before on a t-shirt? Or they say it's a logo. It wasn't even a logo. I think you should turn your speaker on a little bit. So if you were to use anything with more than 3 colors on a t-shirt or a business card or whatever you're working with, it's going to cost you more money. The more colors you have, the more money it costs. So if you have it 1 color, it's going to cost a lot less than having it 4 color. If you have a full color process, which is you could have a picture and use it as 4 color. I did t-shirts where I did 8 colors, but the other colors that I had there was I had a 4-color process, which is CMYK that you would print in any printer. That's why they have 4 different colors. So they have cyan, yellow, magenta, and black. There's 2 extra ones in here. One's a cleaner and one is a lighter blue. But any printer that you print with, if they have a 4-color process, CMYK, and then you might want to print over top of that with a metallic, or you see shirts that have different types of glow-in-the-dark inks and stuff like that. That's an extra ink. It costs more. So if you were to create, what's that, Matt? Yeah, CMYK is usually, but you could have one color, like the shirts for the class shirts are 1 color. They were all 1 color. So practical and adaptable. You never want to use a gradient in a logo. So gradients are a no-go when it comes to a logo. So so make sure that your logos are 1 solid color to start off with, even if you're doing 2 color. It has to work as a 1 color graphic first, or 1 color vector-based graphic first. Originality, I always want you guys to be original. Even if I asked you to look up other logos, I don't want you to steal other logos. And this goes for your sketch of the day. I see a lot of people looking up other people's work and copying other people's work. You don't want to copy other people's work because that just takes away of the originality of what you're working with. So if you're sitting there and you're looking up something and you're thinking that you're doing a good job, well, in my eyes, I see what you guys are doing, and I see, okay, it's not original. If it's not original, I believe you could do better. So make sure it's one of a kind, and that means you can, somewhere down the line, make it ownable for yourself and copyright it. If you copyright your work and people take your work, you could sue them. Yeah. One time, someone hired me for a job. They said, "Oh, use this baby. I want to create like a flyer." So I used the baby. And the next thing you know, someone who took the photograph of the baby started calling me and saying, "If you don't take that away from the website, we're going to come after you." So they gave me a cease and desist letter. Yeah. So you don't want to get a letter like that. So yeah, that's the thing, is make sure that like copyright laws change sometimes. So, sometimes you might have rights to use a logo, but after a certain amount of time, they might want money. You know, it really depends on the copyright. So make sure yours is original. Especially, I really want you guys to think about being original with your sketches of the days. So try not to look up something and copy it directly because it's never going to be as good as the original. So I want you guys to be original. What's that? Yeah, you could use for reference, but I wouldn't copy exactly what they did. So if it's like draw a snail eating like a flower or something like that, you could look up a snail, you could look up a flower, and you could just create your own. So make sure that you're creating your own. All right. I'm gonna post the personal logo assignment. I just kind of went over it. I might want to go over the rubric real quick, just so that you guys understand it a little bit better of what I'm looking for. And you could see here on the upper left is all these thumbnail images that they're creating. Then, you know, if you take one of the roughs thumbnails, you're going to start off with a word cloud. I don't know how that happened. A word cloud that's on the bottom right. And then you're going to go to your thumbnails. And from your thumbnails, you're going to go to a rough. And then from the rough, I want to see I want to make sure you guys could see this because it looks like it's pretty small here. From the rough, you go to a finish, and then from the finish, you bring it into the computer and you make sure that it's created nicely and illustrated on that 3x3. Like make sure it's centered, it looks presentable. I think it's the projector over here that keeps on messing my screen up. All right, so I'm first looking for the specifications, which it's off of this screen, but you guys could see it on your screen. The specifications is making sure it's on a 3x3 document size when you're in Illustrator. And then all of the specs according to second year, I want to see one color, I want to see two color, maybe three color. First year, all you got to deal with was one color. Make sure you're using the negative space in the logo. So you could create an icon and initial mark, or I think if you use an icon, you're going to use you should use a word mark. So then the design process is big. Make sure that you're showing me all of your sketches, all of your ideas. You're writing down different ideas there. I know a lot of you guys have been doing that and doing a good job with it. And then your roughs to the finish. Deadline's important too. I've been looking at past projects and I see a couple of you guys that still didn't make the deadline, especially, you know, it goes back to the self-portrait. Some people don't even have their self-portraits up. Make sure that you're hitting your deadlines. The last project, the class logo, I'm going to get all that together and we're going to vote on which one's the best, and we're going to use that for our bathroom paths and different things that we're going to have for this year. So I'm going to get those together and put it in a document where we could all vote on it, and we'll pick which one's the best one. Usually the last couple of years, I think I picked when we did a critique, but I think I'm just going to create a form where we fill out which one's the best one. All right, so everyone understand the scope of the project. Is there any questions with the project? It should be similar, Brian.
Actually, it's about the whole, it's about the thing you said about on the boat, on the bathroom pass. Are you gonna make sure? Sorry, I'm not making any talk myself, but about are you trying to? Is it also allowed for you to vote yourself? Because I feel like it's going to be a bit cheating if it's going to be a bit of selfish if they do that.
Well, you don't, I mean, I can't stop you from voting for yourself, but you don't You don't have to vote for yourself.
Okay.
Any other questions? If you have past work that's due, make sure you finish it. I think that when I look back and I see too many people that have past work due, I believe that you're not using your time efficiently enough, and you probably have to take some stuff home. So make sure that you give me your past work. Does everyone understand deadlines are important, and it's also part of the rubric? It's the last thing on the rubric, so it's worth 25% of your grade just to get it on time. All right. Any questions? I'm going to release the assignment now. Make sure you look over the assignment sheet again before you start. And we will have another quiz with all the information on the slides here, so I'll post that also. Before you upload it, when you're ready to upload it, make sure you watch that 7-minute video that's there. It's just kind of going over what I'm looking for in terms of keeping your logo clean. Let me know if you guys see it. It should be available now.